Welcome to EVTN News, everyone, and happy Easter. I hope you had a great Easter, and remember, the Easter season lasts for a while. It lasts for, 50 days until Pentecost Sunday? So enjoy the time. I know, for one, I like eating candy. Finally get the chance to do that. After, after a short time, it feels like a long time, and I don't know, like the typical Easter foods like ham and kielbasa and eggs. I mean, I'm kind of like, all right, that's good stuff. But I had some Easter tacos. I'm not gonna lie, I like tacos a lot. And do you guys remember Taco Bell's fire? What is it? Volcano taco. I think it's really just cheddar cheese mixed with fire sauce. Oh, is that a good combination? Anyway, I can't wait to tell my friends. That's a little, I don't know. It's a little bright today. It looks like on the screen. Let's start out with Cardinal Hollerich. Thanks for joining me on the live stream. Luxembourg Cardinal Jean-Claude Hollerich, member of France's 9-person advisory gang, wants a right to bless practicing LMNOPs. He told an Italian news outlet on April 1st, but this wasn't an April Fool's joke. He believes the church can change her attitude, and he wants to speed up that process because we must open the doors to everyone. Hollerich said that many priests suffer from celibacy. He would therefore welcome abolishing celibacy. So in the Roman Rite, so you're a Roman Rite priest, but you think that many priests suffer from celibacy. Man, wouldn't that have been something to consider during like your 8 years of seminary? Or is that something that the Jesuits, where did he not have to worry about that? I was going to say something, but you can figure out what I think. He talks about LMNOP all the time. What should we make of that? He's obsessed with LMNOP. And remember, I always repeat this with Hollerich and McElroy, they had heretical ideas before Francis promoted them, and I called it. I said McElroy's going to be the next cardinal in the United States, and look what happened. And that's one of those things. I say I hate it when I'm right. Watch Bishop John Stowe in Lexington, Kentucky. He'll be the next one to be promoted somewhere. Mark my words. Now that's a prediction. If Francis is still Pope, watch him rise up the ranks. It's easy. It's easy to predict. McElroy was easy. He was a McCarrick cardinal, now a cardinal. He was a McCarrick bishop. Stowe, I don't know, but he promotes rotten heresy. So Bishop Stowe of Lexington. I'm surprised he didn't get promoted to Archbishop of Louisville, but maybe Francis has bigger plans for him, which is, concerning, I guess, but the last 10 years have been awful, compromised. And you'll see that. I don't talk a lot about Pope Francis. I've kind of tuned out some of his stuff from the news, but every once in a while there's some absolutely rotten things that he does and says, and we'll see that here today. Anyway, this is news from Father Heilman's diocese, Diocese of Madison, Wisconsin. Father Brian Dooley, pastor of St. Patrick's Church in Cottage Grove, Wisconsin, urged his parishioners to vote against the pro-abortion candidate in Tuesday's Wisconsin Supreme Court election last Tuesday, which the pro-life one lost, pro-death one won. In a March 26 parish bulletin, Father Dooley urged Catholics not to vote for pro-death candidate for the Wisconsin Supreme Court, saying that this candidate has tried to make this race entirely an effort to legalize abortion in the state of Wisconsin. In his April 2nd bulletin message, Father Dooley acknowledged that the March 26 bulletin got much more exposure than usual because it got picked up by the media, and reiterated that given a choice between any two people, we must say absolutely not to the person who says abortion should be on the table. That's one of the forbidden words, so hopefully it doesn't get this video targeted. But anyway, reached by CNA, Catholic News Agency, on Monday, Father Dooley, that would be last Monday, Father Dooley declined comment further, saying he believes the situation has been talked about enough. The Diocese of Madison clarified that the Church does not endorse nor oppose specific political candidates after anti-life activist group Freedom from Religion Foundation wrote to the IRS last week to complain about the bulletin, asking the IRS to revoke St. Patrick's 501c3 nonprofit status. So the diocese issued a statement to try to squash that. And I think it was Father Z got kicked out of the Madison Diocese for doing exorcisms for the election whenever Trump was running against Biden. And so he got kicked out. They don't want to lose their nonprofit status. And I mean, it's nice to have. You pay whatever your state sales tax is, you don't pay it. And so whenever you're purchasing items, like if you're purchasing items for a church, it could be thousands of dollars, and how much sales tax would you pay on those items? And you don't have to pay it if you have your nonprofit status. So it is you do save yourself a lot of money. So what's interesting here is, though, Father Dooley, he declined to comment further. And I think this is the difference between him and Father Altman. Because he said what he said, it's in the bulletin, and he left it at that. He didn't apologize, he didn't back down, he just moved on. I think that's the difference. Now, I also think that Bishop Callahan is probably worse than Bishop Hying, because Bishop Callahan, he put Monsignor Grinder he has installed him as a pastor in a parish. Bishop Hying, I don't think, would do the same thing, but we don't know. But I don't think Hying would do that. Now, he would kick out Father Z like he did. And that's part of the problem with bishops in the United States. Now, they have a lot of things to take care of, but don't you think... See, and a little bit of a side rant, sort of. The Eucharistic revival. These bishops, they're not focusing on the Eucharist. I mean, yeah, they're talking a little bit about the Eucharist and saying, yes, the real presence. But then they start talking about social justice. We need to bring the Eucharist every way. We need to bring the Eucharist out into the world. What? No, the whole point was people didn't believe in the real presence of the Eucharist. So how are you going to reinforce that? It's not by doing social justice, because it's not just Catholics who do social justice things. You don't have to be religious to do good things for other people. That's such a basic idea. You're not differentiating yourself from the local tree planting organization in your town. You're not differentiating yourself from the homeless shelter or the animal shelter or Whatever place does nice things for the community. You're not differentiating yourself from that. The difference is the Catholic Church has the Eucharist. Now, if they went back to communion kneeling and on the tongue, oh no, we can't do that. That's too rigid. Altar rails, that would be, no. Only the priest distributing communion? No, we got to have the active participation. We got to pull 10 of the 30 people from, or 10 of the people from the 30-person congregation to hand out communion. All right. Moving over to China, Bishop Joseph Shen Bin of Haimen, China, was appointed to lead the Diocese of Shanghai by the Council of Chinese Bishops, the state sanctioned, which is the state sanctioned bishops conference, without approval from the Vatican. Bishop Shen Bin is also the head of the Council of Chinese Bishops. Oh, okay, so he basically moved himself. And the communist, the communist government moved him, but he basically approved it, I guess. Vatican spokesperson Matteo Bruni said Tuesday that the Holy See had been informed a few days ago of the decision of the Chinese authorities to transfer the bishop and learned from the media of the installation this morning, so they were kept in the dark. He said that he had nothing to add to the Holy See's assessment of the bishop's transfer for the time being. I will say nothing. Well, to quote Pope Francis. In March, the Vatican's foreign minister, Archbishop Paul Richard Gallagher, told EWTN News that the Vatican-China deal was not the best deal possible, and that negotiations are underway to make the deal better, to make the deal work better. Well, those negotiations are not working. There's no negotiations with communists. It's their way or the highway. The Vatican took their way for a while. All right, so you've probably heard of Pope Francis' interview with Disney. Disney is a bunch of perverts. They push the LMNOP agenda on kids. It's disgusting. Would you say that Pope Francis lacks prudential judgment? I think that's fair. It's a fair thing to say. Why would anyone, any Catholic, go on Disney for an interview? The whole story you can find other places. I'm just going to read a little bit. It's disgusting. Francis said in front of 10 anti-Catholic activists on the Disney Plus interview, he said the church's teaching on sex is still in diapers. Francis's follies were filmed in June of last year, but were aired during Holy Week. Among those present was a Colombian online prostitute who produces adult content and talked about pornography and other things, other disgusting things. Francis replied that expressing yourself sexually is a richness, but that anything that diminishes real sexual expression diminishes you too. It makes you partial and it impoverishes this richness. A disordered woman considering herself, I guess ungendered is what I would say, spoke about LMNOP. Francis replied that people who use the gospel to, quote, sow hatred live to condemn others because they don't know how to ask forgiveness for their own faults. Referring to LMNOPs, Francis said, I don't have the right to expel anyone from the church, adding that my job is to receive always. Well, that would explain why Hollerich is going around saying what he says. That would explain why McElroy is going around spewing his heresy. Because Francis isn't going to, he's not going to do anything about it. Does he actually support it? I mean, he's not going to do anything about it. A promoter of The slaughter of the unborn gave Francis a green handkerchief, a symbol of the Argentinian infanticide movement that introduced the slaughter of the unborn in 2020. Francis replied that he instructs priests who minister to mothers who have had abortions not to ask many questions and to be merciful like Jesus is. Francis said, "This is the way of the church, all brothers and sisters, all united, each with their own points of view, their positions, some closer, some further, but brothers and sisters, one brotherhood." So basically, he's saying that there's unity among disunity. Disunity is just, it's still unity. And so you can disagree with the church's position of 2,000 years. And that's fine, because it's one brotherhood, which is a Masonic term. So, what a disaster. I mean, you can say that about the last 10 years. And speaking of disasters, Archbishop Michael Jackals of Dubuque, Iowa, I've talked about him before on this channel. Didn't have anything good to say. He delivered a homily at a recent confirmation mass on March 16th. The 69-year-old archbishop recently had resigned for health reasons, accepted by Pope Francis on April 4th, effective immediately. We don't know if what those health reasons are. It could be maybe he's just allergic to the Catholic faith, because as you'll see, it's a possibility. Outlining the various states of life to which the young people might be called, he listed marriage, single life, religious life, and the priesthood. The calling to the priesthood, however, he did not limit to just young men present. He addressed a young girl saying, you might be called to the priesthood. You might think, do I look like a guy to you? But it could happen by the time you're old enough that maybe things will change. I don't know. No. You can become an Anglican fake priestess, but you can never become an actual priest, a real priest. Jackals also used the confirmation homily as a means to promote his personal belief on hell, namely that it is empty. Unfortunately, several bishops believe that. Referencing heaven as the ultimate goal, which all should aim for, the Archbishop stated, "Everyone is called to heaven. That's our destination, right? Everyone is called there. God wants everyone there. In fact, in my opinion, and I'll tell you if you promise not to tell anyone else, I don't think that there's anybody in hell." Good riddance. He raised examples of Hitler and Osama bin Laden, preempting the question of how such individuals would avoid hell. Jackal stated, "Okay, they did bad things, but what's the one thing bigger than the baddest thing? God. God in his mercy, God in his love. God says to Hitler, 'Oh, you old fool, what were you thinking? Your mother drop you on the head when you were a kid? Come on in, although you gotta stop at purgatory and get cleaned up first, but come on in. Come home, come home.' Now, we shouldn't wish anyone is in hell, but to say it's empty it's not even, I don't even know. I mean, you have to have no faith to say that no one's in hell. You have to have no faith. You have to be an atheist. So he resigned. See ya. Please don't ever preach a homily again. Ever. All right, moving on. On March 31st, Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland, issued a cease and desist order to Holy Name College Friary, a community of Franciscan priests and brothers based in Silver Spring, Maryland, according to the Military Archdiocese's April 7th news release. The Archdiocese said the contract for pastoral care was awarded to a secular defense contracting firm that cannot fulfill the statement of work required. The statement of the work required. So there was a contract for pastoral care. Was there money involved? Did they pay these Franciscans to come in? It was awarded to a secular defense contracting firm for pastoral care? That's odd. But is this addition by subtraction? And here's a point. Okay, the Franciscans are from the Holy Name Province, a pro-sodomy sect of Franciscans that includes big names like Father Casey Cole and Father Dan Horan. And that's not all. There's other ones. There's this one guy that posts on Twitter just the most rotten heresies you could ever imagine. And he's part of this group of Franciscans, which I have to say, they're pretty much a sect. That's what I said, pro-sodomy sect of Franciscans. I don't think anything about them is Catholic. I mean, Father Casey Cole's videos, they're not nearly as bad as some of the ideas that are spewed from some of these Franciscans like Father Dan Horan. I mean, in fact, Father Casey Cole seems like a conservative compared to some of these guys in this horrible religious order. So I asked the question: is it addition by subtraction? Because if they go, do they see the sacraments as a priority? If you write for the National Catholic Reporter, no. Extreme unction. They wouldn't do extreme unction. They do anointing of the sick. And even then, who cares? There's a reasonable hope that all are saved, right? Still, well, and I also did hear that Broglio, Archbishop Broglio, of the military archdiocese, he was contacted by the FSSP, and the FSSP asked if he would be interested in having any of their seminarians or priests serve for the military, and he said no. He wants the Novus Ordo, not Latin. But he'll take these Franciscans who some of whom don't believe in the Catholic faith, apparently, or at least don't promote ideas that are Catholic. They promote anti-Catholic ideas. So, but it's still kind of crazy to see this happen. So we'll see what the military archdiocese can do. Okay, getting to the Church Militant story. You've heard by now. Church Militant fired 19 employees. They, laid them off. Church Militant issued a statement saying, oh, it's Biden's fault. The economy's bad. No. People just don't want to hear about how the SSPX are schismatic. Actually, we're on 3 years now. 3 years since they released their assault on the SSPX. And it's hurting them. It really is. Because they've separated themselves from the traditionalists. So now you just get the angry Novus Ordo people who are subscribers of Church Militant. That's their revenue. They probably get it from other private donors who are large private, they donate large sums of money, but their subscriber base, that's it. It's limited. They laid off 19 employees, which is almost a third of their staff, apparently. I can do a little bit more research into their financials. Maybe. If people are interested, maybe I will. I'm not going to find much. I'll bet I'll find a lot of losses. Like a lot of, at least short-term losses, expenses are greater than revenue. But what? They have I think it was 2019, they had 55 employees. What are they doing? What do these employees do? Do they just, sit on the computer and create fake Twitter profiles and say, ooh, the SSPX is Nazis and anti-Semitic and they're schismatics, and I don't know, create their own echo chamber? Like, what do they do? Like, oh, there was someone who once went to an SSPX mass who is in jail or who was arrested or... Okay. They were breaking stories left and right, and now George Newmeyer was doing it all. Church Militant wasn't breaking anything. They weren't breaking any news. After the McCarrick thing kind of subsided, that was it. They were done. And now they're really feeling the pressure. And going after Mike from Restoring the Faith Media, people saw how vindictive Michael Voris is and how, I mean, how ridiculous some of these things that they do. It's just, it's nuts. All right, I want to get to the comments. The Catholic president Brandon is landing in Belfast tomorrow. Well, Patty, I'm sure you are excited. You don't know what version you're getting. I'll say, hopefully he has a good teleprompter that he can see well, because otherwise he's not the greatest at off the cuff remarks. Neither am I, but I'm also not pretending to be president of the United States. Oh, it looks like my cousin just had a kid. Okay. Congratulations. My cousin-in-law, I guess that would be. Anyway. All right. Please pray for the new baby. I just got the text, by the way. I can see that. Can you comment on whether the Vatican II sect is Gnosticism or is it liberal Protestantism? Oh, that's not for me to comment on. I'm still trying to wrap my head around a lot of things. I do think it's tough. It's really tough because, a lot of bishops really don't believe in the Catholic faith. Or at least they don't promote the Catholic faith. They promote stuff that is just ridiculous nonsense. Even like decent ones, they still do crazy stuff. They still allow crazy stuff to go on in their diocese. It's disappointing. I don't know. There's some good priests out there, and you just have to stick with a good priest. I guess that's really, I believe the hierarchy is valid, and we need a visible hierarchy, even if they're all heretics and they'll all be condemned by a future pope. I don't think all of them are, but I think a majority of the cardinals may hold heretical beliefs. I don't know. I mean, a lot of them were appointed by Pope Francis, and right now he seems to like the guys that are preaching the most rotten heresies. Fatima didn't say that hell was empty. Can you tell me the name of those Franciscans again? It's the Holy Name Province. They are based out of New York. Let me see. Yes, the Holy Name Province of Franciscans, OFMs, Order of Friars Minor. I want to make sure I didn't get anything in the mail from them. Go on their website, check it out. I don't know if there's a lot of heresy, but I think they do promote Father Dan Horan, but just avoid them. Avoid them if you can. I see the Dalai Lama is now fast becoming the McCarrick of the East. Yes, the Dalai Lama. The media was very hesitant to report it, but then I did see that CNN reported that. So the Buddhists are having their own problems. I guess Zen doesn't really take you away from awkward encounters with children. I use the term encounter, but awkward interactions, I guess, might be a more family-friendly term. I don't know. I try to be family-friendly on this channel, but I gotta say, it's not for kids. I mean, some of this stuff that's going on, like Francis's interview, it was on Disney, but that's not for kids. It's not. Church militant probably being punished by God for lying about the SS. Well, I mean, they brought it upon themselves. Many church militant employees probably watching all the Catholic YouTube channels promoting themselves and reporting anyone who says anything bad about them. Okay, well, I did fail to mention that there is a YouTube video. This lady who left church militant before the layoffs, she interviewed a employee who was part of the layoffs, and this employee said that Michael Voris, over the last several months, he withdrew from daily operations, frequently working from home, and he skipped morning and evening prayer a lot. And so something's going on at church militant. I mean, they probably knew it, and the people that were, doing the day-to-day operations of the financials probably knew it. But I just think that it happens, and they're in a tough spot. I mean, it's all Michael Voris. So if he's the only employee, then it'll still survive. It's not going to completely fail, I don't think. I mean, people can just tune him out. You look at all his tweets. I mean, he's unhinged. And I think you could see that in the past maybe year or so, where he's just tweeting like he's absolutely unhinged, tweeting crazy stuff, accusing everyone of being schismatics. And now we know he was working from home by himself. That's tough. I mean, like, introverts, they're okay with isolation, but not having interaction with people for an extended period of time, that weighs on you. It does, even for introverts. I mean, I wouldn't mind having days off where I could read, but I really need to, if I have days off, I have to stay focused. I mean, it's just how it is. And that gives me a chance to plug Father Mark Goring's, what was his book called? Oh, I just did a review on it too. I have it just right on my bookshelf. I'll remember it at some point, but one of his books where he spent time on an island. It was like 8 days on an island. I don't know. I wish That's the bad part about doing these live videos by myself, is I don't have a second to check it out. But anyway, I see some comments coming through. Thanks for commenting, everyone. So yeah, many church militant. Okay, they sound like the Franciscan version of the Sisters of St. Joseph. I don't know. The only good thing church militant did was calling out the bishops. Sure, that's fine. Taylor Marshall did that too. A lot of other people did. Church militant spent a lot of money going after Mike on RTF, and it was for nothing. I mean, it's ridiculous. He collected a GoFundMe page. He started a GoFundMe page for Father Jackson, which turned out probably wasn't a great idea. And he probably took a cut of the money. But who cares? If you donated to that, then you knew that that was a possibility. So who cares? Like, really, seriously, who cares? It's not that big of a deal. If I start a GoFundMe page, I'm going to pocket the money. You don't know how I'm going to spend it, and I don't specify how I'm going to spend it. That's the same for anyone else. Like, the GoFundMe, Mike, he could have spent that on McDonald's, but that's a chance you take when you're donating. If I donate to, well, I wouldn't donate to the Franciscans of the Holy Name Province, but say I did, if I donated to them, they could be using it for subscriptions to dating apps to meet up with other men, or for buying rainbow vestments. If I donate to like the FSSP or the Institute of Christ the King, they could be spending that money buying McDonald's. I don't know. right? I mean, you just don't know. That's why you donate somewhere where you think the money will be well spent. That's the whole point. And the same goes for Church Militant. If you donate money, if you subscribe to them, they're going to spend their money how they want. They can spend it on their chapel. They wanted to update their chapel, even though Archbishop, I think it was Archbishop Vigneron, said they shouldn't call themselves Catholic. Was it Vigneron? It may have been the bishop before him. I don't know. One of them said that. And Church Militant, and then they have the nerve to call the SSPX schismatics. Okay, whatever. The FSSP is using money for their seminary so we can have more priests do the Latin Mass. I know, it was sort of a joke. I know they're not spending that on buying McDonald's. I don't know, that's a good question. Do traditional priests and seminarians ever eat fast food? I would say probably not. I mean, considering like the Fairfield Carmelite nuns, the ones in Fairfield, Pennsylvania, which is near Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Those nuns, they are on strictly a vegetarian diet. It's not because they're following the new doctrines of Laudato Si. It's because they're sacrificing meat. No, that's a bad way to put it. They're foregoing eating meat as a sacrifice, I guess. Yeah, I mean, the way I said it before, you can interpret that as like the old Israelite sacrifice of animals. But that's just what it is. Anyway, we have 50 days. We have an Easter octave. We still have 7 more days in the Easter octave? 6 more days in the Easter octave, ending on Low Sunday. And then the Easter season lasts until Pentecost. So we have Pentecost coming up in not a short time. It's in a while. And I'm also glad that around here the weather is turning nice. And so because of that, I don't know how much time I'll be spending on other videos on this channel. I definitely like to do a lot more videos. I just did a review of the St. Joseph Daily Missal, and I was really excited to do that book review. I have other book reviews I'd like to do, and I have a ton of books just sitting here. I can see all of them now, and I'm not going to get through all of them this year. I can say that, but I'll try to get through as many as possible. But if it's nicer weather, it's nice to spend more time outside, get that natural vitamin D, as opposed to just taking a vitamin D supplement. And that's it. So this has been EVTN News. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. We are the laity, and we will not be silent.